Breaking news. Tim Norman has taken the stand like I predicted yesterday during Philly Phil's poll that she added when she asked, do you think Tim Norman is going to take the stand? I was one of the 30% that said yes, and I was right. So I'm going to get to this article from Fox. I believe it's Fox 2 out in Missouri. Yeah, Fox 2 out in Missouri, Fox 2 Now. And I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to give my analysis. It says, defendant Tim Norman testified in murder for hire trial. After a brief delay in proceedings Tuesday morning, the man accused of plotting to have his nephew murdered for an insurance payout took the stand in his own defense. James Timothy Tim Norman denied involvement in the 2016 murder of Andre Montgomery. Did you have anything to do with the murder of Andre Montgomery? Defense attorney Michael Leonard said. Leonard. I think they spelled it wrong. Said. No, sir, Norman said. Norman claimed he didn't know who gunned down his nephew until summer 2022 when the trigger man pleaded guilty. Norman is the son of Robbie Montgomery, who founded Sweetie Pies in 1996. Norman was co-owner of some of the restaurants by 2015 and 2016. The Montgomery family starred in the reality show Welcome to Sweetie Pies, produced by Oprah Winfrey's own network. On the stand, Norman recalls his upbringing and working for Sweetie Pies. He'd been a manager since 2010, working between 15 to 16 hours a day. The show began filming that year. In 2011, when the show premiered on television, Norman became manager of the Mangrove location on Westchester Avenue in Tower Grove. Norman estimated he made at least $55,000 in revenue each week from the restaurant, store merchandise, and ATMs he operated. Andre Montgomery moved to St. Louis from Texas to finish high school. He lived with his grandmother at the time, Norman said. Norman told the court he tried writing Andre into the show as much as possible and mentored him. After he graduated high school, Andre moved back to Texas. However, Andre came back to St. Louis half a year later. Norman said Andre had issues in Texas and felt it would be better for him in St. Louis. Andre moved back in September of 2014, and Norman set him up with an apartment at the same building Norman lived, just a couple doors down on the same floor. Norman paid for the apartment. Andre Montgomery Jr. was shot and killed in the 3900 block of Natural Bridge Road just after 8 p.m. on March 14, 2016. He was 21 years old. In addition, Norman said he pulled strings and paid for Andre to attend Nelly's music producer school, the Extreme Institute. He provided Andre with transportation to and from the school and let him use his own vehicles at the time. Norman also gave Andre a daily allowance. Norman contacted his insurance agent, Wally Yagnan, to acquire a policy for Andre. According to Norman, Yagner met with Andre on October 7, 2014 to ask the young man questions for insurance applications. Norman understood he'd be the owner on the policy and that he'd be responsible for paying the premiums. He said he didn't want Andre to know he could pull money out of the policy for personal use. In the spring of 2015, Andre stopped going to work and dropped out of the Extreme Institute, Norman said. Andre moved out of the apartment Norman had been paying for in mid-2015. Norman said the family cut off Andre financially after this. By June 2015, Norman moved to Los Angeles to oversee a new Sweetie Pies restaurant. That same month, burglars broke into Robbie Montgomery's home. More than $200,000 in cash and other valuables were stolen from the residence. Norman had jewelry, fur coats, computers, TV scripts, and recording equipment stolen from his mother's home, as well as music masters. He blamed Andre for the burglary, who left the area shortly after the crime. Norman said the family hired a private investigator to locate Andre, and he told people they were looking for him. From the stand, Norman said he never told anyone that he wanted his nephew harmed or killed. Andre returned to St. Louis in March 2016, and Norman said he was notified on March 6. Norman said it'd been 9 to 10 months since he last saw his nephew. He said Andre had grown and put on weight. At no point did he want to kill or harm Andre, he said. After learning his nephew was back in town, Norman said he kept his normal schedule. He would fly back to St. Louis on March 13th or 14th to visit Sweetie Pie's location in town, empty their safes on a Monday, and make bank deposits. Federal prosecutors alleged Norman arranged Montgomery's murder for $450,000 in insurance benefits, of which Norman was the sole beneficiary. So it also gives a breakdown of other things involved in the case, such as Andre Montgomery was 21, was shot and killed in a 3900 block of Natural Bridge Road just after 8 p.m. on March 14, 2016. He was 21. Norman was one of 4 people indicted in the conspiracy. The gunman, Travell Hill, pleaded guilty in June 2022 to 1 count of murder for hire and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder for hire. He'll be sentenced on September 20th. Norman testified he did not order anyone to pay Hill $5,000. Terica Ellis, an exotic dancer in Memphis, Tennessee, was accused of setting Andre up and tipping off Norman and others about Andre's location prior to the murder. Ellis pleaded guilty in July 2022 to 1 count of murder for hire conspiracy. She'll be sentenced on October 26. Norman said he met Ellis at an East St. Louis strip club in 2009. Months later, they began an on and off again a sexual relationship. However, Norman testified that those encounters were not free. He said he paid Ellis $200 to $300 each time they met. After Welcome to Sweetie Pie's debuted on television, the cost of their sexual encounters increased to between $700 and $1,000. Norman said he would routinely see women at the Chase Park Plaza Hotel in the Central West End. He said he would use burner phones to keep his fiancée at the time from finding out about his infidelities. So that's Janae. Yagna was indicted in August 2020 on 1 count conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud. He pleaded guilty in July 2022. He'll be sentenced on October 26. Prosecutors alleged Norman conspired with Yagna to fraudulently obtain the life insurance policy on Montgomery. That policy contained a $200,000 base with a $200,000 accidental death rider that would pay out if Montgomery died of anything besides natural causes, and a $50,000 10-year term rider that would pay out if Montgomery died within a decade of the policy being approved. Norman said he did not fill out the life insurance applications. Defense attorney Leonard implied Yagna and an associate of his were the ones who filled out those forms and kept Norman in the dark. After testifying for several hours, Norman's cross-examination was brief, about 10 minutes. Prosecutors pointed out that American Express had won a debt judgment against Norman in September 2015 for over $200,000. They also inquired about the burner phones. Earlier Tuesday, Melody Calvert, an executive producer on Welcome to Sweetie Pie's, testified cast members were required to wear wireless mics while taping episodes of the show. Calvert said the cast was told their phones must be on speaker while using them so the TV cameras could record the conversations. However, Calvert told the court some in the cast would occasionally use prepaid phones for personal conversations away from the cameras. Prosecutors asked Norman why he'd give Terica Ellis a prepaid phone if she wasn't a cast member on the show. Closing arguments are expected Wednesday morning. The jury will begin deliberations afterwards. I'm going to say something that may rub people the wrong way, But after, seeing how speedy this trial is and how it's not getting a lot of coverage like it should, I predict, just like I predicted that Tim Norman would take the stand, I predict that Tim Norman is going to be found guilty, but he's not going to get life without parole. I believe that Tim Norman took the stand to basically come off innocent. And I believe that the fact that Wally didn't show up to testify, but Erica did. And I give Erica props for basically telling what I think is the truth. I believe that that's going to affect the outcome of the verdict. Because Wally was the big person to pretty much state, hey, yes, he basically took out a life insurance policy on Andre. Yes. Had Wally spoken, I do think Norman will more than likely be found guilty and go to jail with life without parole. But what I think is going to happen, I believe he's going to get about maybe 40 years, which is still kind of relatively light because he's 43. But he's not going to be indefinitely in prison for the rest of his life. I don't believe it. Now, here's why I say this. He's painting a picture that Andre pretty much was this kid that he and his mother, but more so him, was helping. And that it's like, I'm the one, not my mother, but I'm the one that was taking care of him. Although my mother had him to live with her. I'm the one that basically set him up with an apartment in September 14 when he was having issues in Texas when he moved back there after he graduated from high school. I'm the one that basically had him enrolled in Nelly's Extreme Institute to study music, and I paid for it. I'm the one that basically had him to use vehicles at the time after I provided transportation for him. I'm the one that gave him a daily allowance, not my mother. I'm the one, because remember, my restaurant that I was basically managing, Mangrove, made in profits of revenue $55K weekly he made $55K weekly from the restaurants, store merchandise, and ATMs he operated at Mangrove. So I basically had money. I was basically coming up. I basically provided him a comfortable lifestyle. And the reason why I basically, had the life insurance policy out on him was because he was involved in certain activities that I felt could have cost, his life. And I wanted to make sure that he was insured. That's the problem I have. Why did you get insurance on him? And so I'm going to read it again. Basically, he met with Waliel Yagnam to ask about questions for the insurance application. And Norman says he understood he'll be the owner of the policy and that he'll be responsible for paying the premiums. He said he didn't want Andre to know he could pull money out of the policy for personal use. Now, here's the problem with this. It doesn't really explain why would you put out a life insurance policy on him. Now, he was basically saying 2 years ago, because he was involved in activities that were, sort of illegal. According to the research that the prosecutors conducted, no. He just smoked weed and did music. That was it. It never said that he was involved in any gang activities or anything like that. It doesn't explain that. And this is why I say he's going to get convicted. But here's the real tea. And I want y'all to pay attention. He never mentioned his mom, except for when he mentioned how Andre lives with him. And number two, when he spoke about what happened at the apartment. Remember with the in October of 2015, her house was ransacked, and he basically mentioned not the stuff that she lost, but what he lost. Okay? Those are the only times, according to this article, that he mentioned his mother, Miss Robbie Montgomery. He mentions the $200K in cash and other valuables stolen from the residence. But he mentions that he had jewelry, fur coats, computers, TV scripts, and recording equipment stolen from his mother's home, as well as music masters. So those music masters are probably her items. The fur coat is probably hers. I can't see him wearing a fur coat. The jewelry might be hers. But the TV script and the computers, let's go back to the beginning of the article where he basically stated how he had been a manager since 2010. And the show began filming that year. In 2011, the show premiered on OWN. And Norman became manager of Mangrove. Now, he also mentioned that he was writing scripts for the show. So, this is kind of telling me, and this is just my thing, what it's telling me is that he's the only one that is saying that Andre robbed his grandmother. Andre stole from his grandmother. Ms. Robbie never said that he stole from her. She just said in the text message, listen, if you want to prove your innocence, come down here and take the test. But see, Norman already stated that he did it. Now, see, this is where the prosecutors fumbled on this. The prosecutor should have asked, well, how do you know he did it? Ms. Robbie has so many people coming in and out of her home. How you know it was Andre? Why you automatically pointing to Andre? And it says he blamed Andre for the burglary and he said he left the area shortly afterwards. This is what I believe. I believe that, and this is why I'm saying the T, and then I'm gonna close it out. I believe that Tim Norman was definitely involved. Okay? But the T that I am gonna say, and this is my opinion, this is allegedly, I'm saying this for legal purposes, I believe Tim is protecting his mother. Okay? If you haven't heard me say it, let me say it again. I believe Tim is protecting his mother because he did not really mention his mother. He just mentioned himself and Andre. Tim is protecting his mother. That is why Ms. Robbie is supporting him. Something is going on. Because the one thing they didn't say, I meant to say it like that, he didn't act irate. He was very calm on the stand. He was very smooth and calm and said, no, I didn't have him set up, because that's what he's on trial for. He's not on trial for killing Andre. He's on trial for lining his nephew up to be murdered. What if he didn't do it? What if he really didn't set up the whole thing? What if he took part in it? But what if he really didn't set it up? It makes you really wonder. Because here's the real gag. How come Ms. Robbie isn't testifying? But he testified. Usually those that have already been found guilty in the court of public opinion, they never testify. Case in point, the most famous person that was ever on trial in America, O.J. Simpson. He didn't take the stand. He did not take the stand because they would have made mincemeat out of him. But Tim Norman took the stand, and I voted in Philly Phil's poll. I said, Philly Phil, he's going to take the stand. He's going to take the stand. I was one of the 30% people that said he going to take the stand. And it popped up on my YouTube timeline this afternoon. He took the stand. And he took the stand because he's protecting someone. And I believe that someone is his mother. Now, I'm saying this allegedly, which is why I'm saying allegedly, and I believe. I'm using jargon to protect myself and my brand. It ain't going to be like, oh, I know. No. It ain't going to be that. I'm protecting myself. And I think every YouTuber should do that. But I believe he took that stand to protect his mother. And it's a classic case that all the cases, whenever the son is involved, people think the son did it and he's the mastermind. A lot of times. I'm not saying it is factual in this case. But what I'm saying is something ain't smelling right. Something ain't smelling right with this. Because if you know you guilty, why are you confident taking a stand? And you like, no, I had nothing to do with lining him up. Because that's what he's on trial for. And he said, no, I did not set up my nephew to be murdered. What if he's telling the truth? And with that being said, I'm signing off. I know a lot of people going to talk. It is what it is. But I protected myself legally because it's what I believe. It's my belief. I'm not saying it's factual. But I'm going to have a poll put up. And I want everyone to take it. And I want to thank all of you all that's been listening to all my commentary, especially the ones I posted within the last 2 weeks. Shout out to Philly Phil. Shout out to all my subs who are YouTubers. Shout out to Pharaoh Speak. Shout out to Eric Johnson, 1994. Shout out to Amari's Perspective. Shout out to so many people out there. Shout out to Nicole's View. I don't think Nicole's View has covered this case, but shout out to her anyway. Shout out to everyone that's been riding with me since day one, and shout out to the newbies who just joined, and I will talk to you all later on this evening. Take care. Have a wonderful night. Be safe out there. Stay cool. And I'll be back with another one. Peace. And later.